tonga ngā ki tana ki runga ki tēnā o tā. E ono le he gloria he mau ngāro mo ki runga ki te mata o te whenua. Pakaro pai ki ngā tana te katoa. Aro haina ngā teina, me ngā tuakana e noho nei i mi te whakaro o tai. Pai mani.
Kia ora everyone, please be seated. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, tēnei aku mihi mahana ki o koutou. Nau mai, hara mai, ki te whare kāwana, tianara o whanganui e tara. Kia ora mai tātou katoa. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Government House for today's investiture ceremony. I want to specifically acknowledge Doug Walker, Business Manager Critical Projects and Governance of Te Puni Kōkiri, Jimmy Isaku, Advisor Critical Projects and Governance of Te Puni Kōkiri, Mr. Joe Harawira, our kaumātua, and Ms. Puhiwahine Tibble, our kuia. Hosting investiture ceremonies is one of the most important duties that I perform on behalf of His Majesty the King of New Zealand. I'm delighted to bring together such an extraordinary group of New Zealanders. You have each brought pride and a sense of well-being to Aotearoa New Zealand through your outstanding achievements and your service to our communities. On behalf of all New Zealanders, I extend my sincerest thanks to you for your contributions. After each recipient is honoured, I invite you to join with me in congratulating them. Ms. Catriona McLeod will now summon the recipients and read their citations.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Dame Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dame Farah Palmer of Palmerston North for services to sport, particularly rugby. Dame Farah Palmer, Ngāti Maniopoto Waikato, is a three-time Rugby World Cup winning captain of the New Zealand women's rugby team, the Black Ferns, and has held a variety of governance roles since retiring as a player in 2006. Dame Farah was Professional Development Manager for the Manawatu Rugby Union, an independent member of the Māori Rugby Board, member of the Women's Advisory Committee of the International Rugby Board, and research consultant for New Zealand Rugby. She became the first woman on the New Zealand Rugby Board in 2016 and was elected Deputy Chairperson in 2021. She currently chairs the New Zealand Māori Rugby Board and is president of the New Zealand Rugby Museum. In 2022, she was appointed as Po Akonga, Executive Director, Māori Student Success at Massey University, and previously was Associate Dean Māori for Massey Business School from 2018. Her research and service focuses on the intersection of Māori and gender identities in high-performance sport, sport for development, organisational and leadership contexts. She was a member of Te Manahua, New Zealand University's Women in Leadership Programme Committee from 2015 to 2020. She was a member of the Ministerial Task Force reviewing alcohol advertising and sponsorship in 2014 and was a founding trustee for Manukura, an education program with a Te Ao Māori approach to excellence in sport, culture and education. She's held several mentoring and patron roles with education and public sector organisations. Dame Farah is a member of the Sport and Recreation New Zealand Ihi Aotearoa Board. Dame Farah Palmer, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the Queen's Service Order, Ms. Naomi Ferguson of Paraparaumu, for services to the public service. Naomi Ferguson was the first female Commissioner and Chief Executive of Inland Revenue. She delivered Inland Revenue's business transformation plan using technology to modernize the administration of the tax system and make engagement with Inland Revenue easier for New Zealanders. She co-chaired the Papaponamu Diversity and Inclusion Program, led by the Public Service Commission. She played a key role in establishing and sponsoring the Government Women's Network. She is chair of the OECD Forum on Tax Administration Gender Balance Network. She has led cross-agency work to deliver government initiatives, including the Small Business Cash Flow Scheme, COVID support, and resurgent support payments during the COVID-19 pandemic. Ms. Ferguson began her career in the United Kingdom and was then seconded to New Zealand as Deputy Commissioner of Inland Revenue. Ms. Naomi Ferguson, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. B.J. Clark of Kaiapoi, for services to the Royal New Zealand Returned and Services Association. B.J. Clark has held roles with the New Zealand Returned and Services Association, RNZ-RSA, for 30 years, and was National President from 2014 until 2022. He was previously Canterbury District President and National Vice President. He's represented the RSA at significant national and overseas events and led the organisation through the COVID-19 pandemic. He has been New Zealand representative on the Royal Commonwealth Ex-Services League. He is a member of the Veterans Advisory Board and the National War Memorial Advisory Committee. He's been employed as National Manager, Access and Infrastructure for CCS Disability Action. He is a Justice of the Peace and has been Canterbury President. Mr. Clark serves on the Community Justice Panel and assists young offenders in the Canterbury region. Mr. B.J. Clark, please come forward. Mr. Wee Taipa of Porirua for services to Māori art, particularly ceramics. Wee Taipa Te Arawa, Ngāti Whakaue Te Atiawa, is a leading Māori artist. Early in his career, he shifted from carving to clay and has worked to position the relatively unrecognised medium within Mātauranga Māori. He's exhibited in New Zealand and internationally. He was a founder of Naikahanga Uku National Collective of Māori clay workers. He's travelled internationally, bringing back new connections with fellow Indigenous artists, techniques and research. He ran Māori art workshops at Witako, now Rimutaka Prison, and as a social worker at Kohitere Boys Training Institute. He's mentored young artists through formal teaching positions and individually. Mr. Taipa contributed to the carving of po for Wellington's Michael Fowler Centre and completion of Orongomai Marae in Upper Hutt. Mr. Wee Taipa, please come forward. Dr. John Tate of Wellington for services to obstetrics and gynecology. Dr. John Tate was Vice President of the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and Chair of Te Kahui Oranga Onuku, its New Zealand committee. He was Chief Medical Officer at Capital and Coast District Health Board. He has long advocated for safe and accessible abortion services for women, including access to safe medical abortion as an alternative to surgery. He co-established Ishtar to import mifepristone from France when no established pharmaceutical firm was willing to import it. He has worked with the Ministry of Health on addressing harms experienced by women as a result of surgical mesh. He chairs the Perinatal and Maternal Mortality Review Committee. Dr. Tate is President-elect of the Asia-Oceania Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Dr. John Tate, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dr. Heather Kame Fryer of Auckland for services to Māori education and health. Dr. Heather Kame Fryer is an Associate Professor at the Department of Public Health at Auckland University of Technology. She founded and is co-chair of STIR, Stop Institutional Racism. She has convened think tanks and symposiums for anti-racism and co-convened anti-racism masterclasses. She has led initiatives such as Te Tiriti Futures anti-racism webinar series. She has a decades-long involvement with the Pākehā Tiriti workers' movement. She co-published Critical Tiriti Analysis, a methodology to assess Te Tiriti compliance. She's held various roles with the New Zealand Public Health Association. Dr. Kame Fryer chaired the parliamentary review of the National Cervical Screening Programme and is a fellow of the Health Promotion Forum. Dr. Heather Kame Fryer, please come forward. Mrs. Jenny Shattock of Tokoroa for Services to Local Government and Economic Development. Jenny Shattock was Mayor of South Waikato District Council. She's driven regional economic development, including Fonterra's investment into a new milk powder dryer at Litchfield and development of a distribution centre in Tokoroa for New Zealand imports and exports by Singapore-based OFI. Her time as mayor has seen increased GDP, employment, and household incomes. She instigated forestry industry symposiums, leading to the establishment of the Central North Island Wood Council and a rangatahi training and development program. She helped establish the Impact Hub in Tokoroa to support local entrepreneurs and startups and build digital capabilities. Mrs. Shattock established the Work It program for rangatahi not in education, employment or training. Mrs. Jenny Shattock, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mrs. Margaret Burke of Masterton for services to the community. Margaret Burke has been involved in numerous education institutions as President, Vice President, Chair, Parent Representative and Delegate. She was a community board member with the Wairarapa Rural Education Activities Programme. She was the board secretary of Wairarapa Citizens Advice Bureau and volunteers with Aratoi Museum of Art and History. She was a council member of the Catholic parish of Wairarapa and is a lay reader and church cleaner. She has held various positions with Wairarapa Plunket branch, including president. Mrs. Burke coordinated for the design and build of a new building for the amalgamated Plunket services in the area. Mrs. Margaret Burke, please come forward. Ms. Linda Rutland of Christchurch for services to the community. Linda Rutland was a member of the Hagley Ferrymead Community Board and a Christchurch City Councillor. She held leadership and liaison roles on the Mount Pleasant Memorial Community Centre and Residents Association, helping to establish the annual Estuary Fest event. Following the Canterbury earthquakes in 2011, she led establishment of a temporary community facility, assisted with the setup of a farmers' market, organised public meetings and social gatherings, and helped rebuild the Mount Pleasant War Memorial Community Centre. She was inaugural chair of the Christchurch Coastal Pathway Group. Ms. Rutland is involved with the rebuilding of Linwood College, Te Aratai. Ms. Linda Rutland, please come forward. Mrs. Patricia Smith of Carterton for services to the community. Patricia Smith was front of house manager and vice president of the Harlequin Theatre. She is a member and former president of Rotary Carterton. She was a member of the Rotary New Zealand Australia Student Exchange, helping select students, establish matches, and promote the program. She was a voluntary driver for the Cancer Society, transporting patients to Wellington or Palmerston North for treatment. She's been a long-standing member and president of the Carterton Plunket. She was invited up a district representative on the New Zealand Plunket Society National Committee. Mrs. Smith has been a member of the Carterton District Community Trust. Mrs. Mavis Tweedy of Havelock North for services to the community. Mavis Tweedy is a life member and patron of the Hastings City Pipe Band, now Hawke's Bay Caledonian. She served as treasurer and has supported catering and planning for band trips. She is an elder with St Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Hastings and served on the parish session and board of managers. She's volunteered in the kitchens, transporting people to church, producing floral arrangements, and managing collection funds. She's volunteered as a hospital visitor, helping take patients to church services and providing floral arrangements to rest homes. Mrs. Tweedy has organised collectors for fundraising appeals. Mrs. Mavis Tweedy, please come forward. Your Excellency, the investiture has concluded.
New Zealand's honours system is our highest public affirmation of outstanding individual achievement. It reinforces those things that make our society better: service, manaakitanga, and the pursuit of excellence. To our recipients, it has been a privilege to hear your stories. You have each used your talents and abilities to improve the lives of fellow New Zealanders. In doing so, you embody the sentiments expressed by the great Nigerian playwright, Wole Soyinka, when he said, "Human life has meaning only as long as it is lived in the service of humanity." I urge recipients to wear your insignia with pride at every opportunity, knowing that you inspire others by your example. On behalf of the King of New Zealand and all New Zealanders, I congratulate you on your achievements, and I thank you again for your service to our community and to our country. It will be my title, Now you will see on the back of your program the words to the national anthem, Reo Māori, and the English, and I invite you to stand with me and sing the prayer.